Why don't you take a seat? Tell me what appears to be the problem. I used to record these videos on my laptop with a webcam and an external microphone, but people kept complaining about the sound volume level. I'm now using my regular camera and an external microphone. I also used an external microphone before. Is this better? Yes? No? Okay. Let's start the video. What is your favorite Montblanc pen to date? I don't believe I have one. Montblanc is not really my brand. It's nothing against Montblanc. The pens Montblanc makes typically don't do much for me. This is the way it is. If I were to pick one, I do think the 146, the 149 are very classic designs. The black and gold, the ink window, the nice large nib. That's great. Having said that, I don't own either of these pens, and I probably never will either. It's just not really my pen, and that's okay. Remember Marcus Aurelius. It is okay to not have an opinion about certain things. Next question. This is a very pragmatic question that I thought would be kind of fun to address here. This was posted on a disassembly line. No, was it disassembly line? No, it wasn't a disassembly line. Sorry, it was my review. Sorry, on the Moonman Wancai, whatever this is called, C5 or something. Sorry, I forget I have it as a Mahjong, but it's anyway. They come in different versions. Now, question here was, when I switch inks, I get ink stuck above the nib. I'm assuming that what we're talking about is right there. The section in this particular model I have is transparent. You could have ink stuck there. How do you get the ink out? Well, that's simpler than you may think it is, although it might not be easy the first time you do it. Here we have the section. Here we have the nib. You can carefully pinch that. Now what I always like to do is I like to put my finger on the nib and my thumb on the feed so that nothing gets misaligned. And then you very carefully twist. And once that's loose, you can take the entire nib unit out. You can just clean in there, you can clean on here. Shouldn't be any ink left. And then when you're done, very carefully, be careful you don't lose the O-ring at the end there. Very carefully you screw that back into place. And then you give it one more turn. It can help to just twist the pen end and not the nib end. You don't have to over tighten anything. Make sure again you don't misalign things. And that's the end of it. That should do it. Now, if you find that's not that easy for your pen, that might be because that nib unit is tightened quite a lot. What I find can help then is don't do it dry, use a bit of lubrication. And that's very simple. Water. Put the entire section just in water, let it soak for a bit. Maybe, sorry, I'm just trying to unscrew this. This is actually pretty tight. It's ironic. Run some water through the whole section from the back so that you get water in there. Sometimes that helps. If that really doesn't work, then I guess you're stuck with ink. I wouldn't force anything because you don't want to bend the nib out of shape. These steel nibs bend fairly easily, so be a little careful. I hope that helps. Next question. This was an interesting question left on a M800 M1000 Pelican video. It was something along the lines, if you like these pens but now you don't own them anymore, what do you look for in pens that you use now? What features and performance elements do you prefer in new pens? Most important thing to me, I've found, is a consistent writing experience. I've been doing this for over a decade now. And I've seen many pens, some expensive pens that barely wrote. I've had it with expensive Pelicans that had over-polished nibs, especially in the very broad range, broad, triple broad, double broad, triple broad. They hard start, they skip, they have baby's bottoms, they're over-polished. We've discussed baby's bottoms many times. You can look at older videos, consult the doctor. That is an issue. I've also had many issues with with air exchange issues where you write, and as you write, a vacuum gets drawn and slowly but steadily the pen starts writing less and less. That's not necessarily easy to fix. In such a case, all kinds of things could be going on. Nib meisters can fix it, but it's a little hard to do on your own. This I've come to value most. If I have a pen, any pen, whether it is a $5 pen, a $500 pen, I expect it to write. This should go without saying, but it doesn't always. People accept crappy pens. We all do. We've all experienced buying an expensive pen, and that can mean anything. To you, that could be a $100 pen. To you, that can be a $1,000 pen or a $5,000 pen. We've all experienced it. You buy it, you're excited to use it, it barely writes. That to me is the biggest issue. So what I value in a pen is it should write. And if a pen is to stay in my collection, it has to write. I don't care whether that means out of the box or it gets sent to a nibmeister, anything along those lines, but it has to write. That matters most. If I end up not liking a nib, I typically end up not keeping the pen. This, to me, matters more than looks, filling system, doesn't matter. Has to write. And I have different pens, some slim, some larger, many larger. I've said this many times. If you're regular of this channel, you know I like a larger pen, right? So yes, it's right. A lot of my pens are a bit on the larger side. I don't care about that so much. I have a Enso XS pocket pen. It's not this one, but this is the exact same model. The one I have in my personal collection is titanium, but it looks exactly like this. Tiny pen, right? But here's the deal with that. It has a number 5 Bock nib, and it always writes. It doesn't skip, it doesn't hard start. It's nice and wet. I may have made that a little wetter, but in any case, it writes the way I like it. That was not a super expensive pen. Yes, more expensive than a $5, and I know that, but relatively speaking, to me, it was not that expensive, but I like that pen. Even though it's small, much smaller than what I would typically pick, it writes consistently. I believe I've adequately hammered this point home. That matters more. More than materials, more than filling systems, definitely more than brands, certainly more than price. I just want the pen to write. I hope that answers the question. Final question for today. Have you ever mixed different inks? Now, this was asked with a very specific point in mind, namely, what if you have a little bit of a certain ink left? Would you sort of put that together with another ink? But there is more to it than that. Ink mixing is a whole hobby on its own. Some people, I should say, like to mix inks. Some inks, some noodless inks, for example, specifically come with the warning not to mix them with anything else. Other inks, like the platinum mix-free inks, are designed to be mixed. Now, a long time ago, and this really is a long time ago, this is not long after I started to get really interested in fountain pens, so this must have been, I don't know, 2011 something. I bought the entire set of platinum mix-free inks, and I did mix. The I think appeal of that is trying to get the ultimate ink for you, right? The perfect purple or green or whatever. What I found was it's not exciting to me. It's just not. Some people love that. They love going through all the motions of figuring out like this yellow and this blue gives exactly the green that I want. That's great, but it's not for me. I don't find that exciting. I don't get any pleasure out of finding the ultimate green or something. I just don't. But that's me. I know that people do and they love it. Now the real question here was, what about you have a little bit of ink left? Would you put in another bottle? As long as the ink is fine, what I mean by that is there's no mold growing in it, or there's no concerns about it maybe having gone off, because that can happen. You can get things growing in ink. If that's not the case, yeah, I have thrown it together. In fact, just yesterday, I found that I had a little bit of Leonardo turquoise left, and I had some Waterman, what used to be South Sea blue. These are not exactly matched turquoise inks, but they're both turquoise. And without skipping a beat, I dunked the two together. And now it's no longer a pure ink, and I do not care. So yes, I have done that. I have zero regrets. I have no issues. I know both of those inks flow well. There's no concerns for me. I've done it, and it was great. And now I have a fuller bottle. That's the end of it. And I know that some people would balk at this. I don't care. I don't care what the brand of the turquoise ink is, as long as I have a turquoise ink. I really don't care. That's it. How many people are now horrified? Please leave a comment below. If you have any other questions, leave them and I will get to them at some point or another in a future episode of Consult the Doctor. I hope this was useful. I'm glad to see you later. Bye.